1220 KHTS, I'm Key Budge. Glad to have you aboard. In studio, two special guests from the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station, Deputy Josh Dubin and Detective Bill Velick. Gentlemen, again, welcome. Glad to have you aboard. And even on the break, you're receiving text messages as people are streaming and listening live.
Correct. You know, the interaction's outstanding. And that's something that we really strive for. And we take this now as an interaction on this radio show and questions and stuff like that. But what happens when we have the next station fire, the next buckwheat fire? We're able to quickly reach out to people, quickly provide valuable quality information. That could save lives.
I know that is one of the big things here at AM 1220, that we really want to make sure that we are the go-to place with our Twitter, with our Facebook feeds, with our email alerts, to make sure the community knows whether it's safety issues, that we are a resource. And it's nice to know that the Sheriff's Department, and I know you in particular, not only do you get the feeds that come from the station, you provide feeds to us, and we have a great relationship, with you and the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station and sharing that information immediately. So thank you from us here at the station for being as open as you are. And Bill, we got you here in the studio, and you've been very patient in sitting there as Josh and I have been running off on social media. But I know that just before we came on the air, you were talking, hey, I've got to do some texting back and forth. I'm working on some special things. So I understand that, and I appreciate your time in here. And your involvement right now is detective at the Sheriff's Station.
Yes.
And your involvement is in which area?
I get assigned the juvenile narcotics cases. So anyone that gets a citation or is arrested under the age of 18 for anything to do with narcotics comes across my desk. And I'm involved with the intervention side, where we try and keep kids from pursuing their drug habits or experiments, however they're using any kind of drugs, whether it's over-the-counters, pharmaceuticals, illegal narcotics, marijuana, alcohol. If parents call and they have a problem, my partner and I will go and deal with the problem. We go to houses and talk to the families about what resources are available for them, what to look for. I do parent education. Any parent group that gets together that wants me to come and talk to them about what drugs are, what we're seeing, what the current trends are with our youth, I go out and talk.
Now, we're seeing a lot of difference as far as drug trends, or maybe what's popular with the kids or in society. It's really evolved, and I'm sure we go through these cycles historically. We can look back from the 60s through, and we can start to see things kind of phase in and out. What are the things that we're seeing here, maybe locally or regionally here in the county, that are things that might surprise people? I know that just listening to the amount of heroin overdoses, that blew me away when I heard how many ODs occurred last year just here in this valley.
Yes.
It was amazing, and to hear heroin.
Yes.
And it's that new resurgence.
And it's not just heroin; it's opiates. A lot of it's prescription drugs. We find with our young people, a lot of the heroin addicts start with prescription drugs. So just getting the education out there to people that the opiate, the pain pills that people are taking or they have in their homes, once they're done with their illness, whatever surgery they had or wherever they're taking the medications, they need to get the medications out. I tell parents all the time, when we were kids, our parents paid attention to the alcohol bottles in the liquor cabinet and locked that up. Now as parents, we have to do that with our medicine cabinets. We have to know what our medication is, and when we're done using it, get rid of it, because if you get sick or injured again, your doctor will give you another prescription and get new medication. Don't hold it for that just in case anymore. We can't do that.
And those meds, I know that on different prescription bottles, they have an expiration date, so they want it to time out. But
yes,
you're absolutely right. The doctors want you to take your medicine until you've completed it. They don't want you to take partial and walk away, because you don't get the full effect of what it's there for. And then just saving it just in case just really doesn't make sense, because the potential negatives are huge.
And the parents that say, well, my kids won't do it, my kids don't use. Sometimes that's right, but you don't know who comes in your house. Your kids will have friends come over. The first thing they're going to do is hand you to go to the bathroom, and they're going to look in the medicine cabinet. If they're going to do that, if your kid may not want to take the drug, but on the street, the drugs are very expensive, and we've had kids that take them to sell them. And they have no intention of using the drug, but now they inadvertently become the drug dealer because they want money, because they want to buy something. They want those nice things. So we run into a little bit of that as well.
So the prescription meds are a big deal. And they're saying that based on a lot of those prescription meds, those narcotics, they'll be maybe an opiate based, which then launches them into the direction of heroin.
Yes. Once on the street, the prescription medications are a ton more expensive at street level when you're talking street level narcotics transactions than the heroin itself. Once they become addicted to the pills, the opiates, it's a physical addiction. If they can no longer get the pill because it's either difficult to get or they're just priced out of it, they'll move into the heroin because it's cheaper and unfortunately a lot of times easier to get.
And now with heroin, it always traditionally, back in the day when we're talking the 60s and 70s when heroin really had a large use base here in the United States, it was with needle injection. And then, but today we've seen a really kind of a different, even though you've been able to ingest it other ways, it's not maybe the most popular way is to use needles.
No, usually the only people we find using needles are real strong addicts that are into it and into daily usage where they're really addicted and it's a physical addiction where if they're not using it, they're getting sick. Most of our people that are starting with heroin start off by smoking it. That's where when I go out and I do the parent education stuff, I show parents, I show families what the paraphernalia looks like because it is different. And if you don't know what to look for, it's very easy to miss. A small piece of tin foil in the trash can is easily missed by parents. They don't understand what it is because you have to open it up to find it.
And how small a piece of tin foil are we talking about?
When it's opened,
It's like a gum wrapper size, or
it's a little bit bigger. It's, I would say, like a ding dong wrapper size.
okay.
But once it's balled up, when it's done, it's very small.
Now, is this coming in a powder form, or are we?
The heroin, we have had heroin. It's usually what we call tar heroin, but sometimes we do get the China white, the white heroin,
Okay.
Powder heroin. But typically, no. It's typically what we find is the tar heroin.
Is the tar heroin? That's what other paraphernalia? Maybe someone might stumble across that they wouldn't even realize that would be associated to drug use.
With the huffing, we get the people that have we call them crackers, to release the CO2 or the nitrous out of a whipped cream charger. But the cracker itself is used by sports people to do fill bike tires.
Okay.
It's the compressed air to quickly fill a bike tire or a basketball. So they'll have them. It has a good legitimate purpose, but parents may not pay attention to what it is. And a lot of it's just parents recognizing basic paraphernalia, the marijuana grinders, glass pipes. Why do they have a lighter? Rolling papers, things like that are small. And a lot of times parents don't realize how small some of the narcotics paraphernalia is. It doesn't have to be a huge bong.
Now, a lot of parents also, and I noticed that they want to respect their kids' privacy, and they don't want to search things, go through the backpack, go through the room. But I would think that you'd want to encourage parents to really be an active, participant in trying to make sure that your kid is not participating in that.
Absolutely. And when I do the parent education, I tell them we need to be parents. We don't need to be friends with our children. We need to be their parents. And that job is, as much as we want to have that good relationship, the job of being a parent is a very important job, and we have to be on them all the time. They are young. They make poor decisions. They don't know, and it's not their fault they're making poor decisions. They just make poor decisions due to lack of life experience. So we need to be on them all the time. Some of the addicts that we've had do recoveries, I do interviews with them after they've been to rehabs for several months. I'll invite them back to the station and talk to them and ask, what could have happened, what could their parents done early in their drug career to stop them. And a lot of them just say, just sit down and talk every day. Give me 5 minutes a day, because they wouldn't have been able to start getting high because they would have had that fear of, I'm going to get caught. Kids, when they are high, find ways of hiding from their parents. But if you force them to sit down, and it's the old cliche, sit down and have dinner together, but it doesn't even have to be that. It's just force them to sit down with you and look at them eye to eye every day, and you'll see the changes. That's
a great point, because with communicating, that eye contact is critical in sending your message and hearing what the other person is saying, rather than just superficially listening while you're watching TV and your child is talking to you and you're not even really giving them that deep concentration, that respect.
Yeah, one of the interviews I just did with one of my heroin addicts that's now recovered, I asked him when he first started getting high, when he came home and he was high, how did he hide it from his parents? Did he just go straight to his room? He said no, because the days he went straight to his room, it raised his parents' suspicion, because that was a normal thing, was to go hide. So he would be busy downstairs. He would do the vacuuming. He would do a chore that maybe he wouldn't normally do, but he knew he had to be in the room. He would make his lunch for the next day for school, so he was busy doing something to avoid that stopped contact with his parents, but he also knew he couldn't go and just sit in his room because they would come in. So he had to stay busy for a little while before he could go hide. So that's why the sitting down and having a moment where both parent and child stop and have just a short 5-minute conversation. You can pick it up real quick if something's wrong, but you got to get them to stop and have that interaction.
That's great advice. Now, when you talk to these kids or these juveniles that have been arrested, and you're sitting down with them in that room where their first, like, oh my gosh, life is now crashing down on me moment, do you ever find them in maybe that moment of vulnerability where they're kind of looking out for that, maybe not just because you're a member of law enforcement and you have a different stature, but almost that like a parental guidance, or are you finding more that, I don't even want to hear what you have to talk about?
It depends. We get both. Some of the kids, I try not to do my interviews the moment they got arrested, because they're in that oh my gosh moment. They're not listening to things. If they're not happy with how they got arrested or how they got caught, they want to blame somebody. They're in a real defensive mode. What my partner and I like to try and do is we bring them in a week later. We invite the parents in with us. We want to sit with the parents and the juvenile and discuss what their drug problem is, how they got started, why are they using it, and then what resources can we offer you to go to get the help that you and your family need. Because it is the family that needs the help. The parents need help with how to deal with it, and the kids need help with how to stop doing it and how to change their ways.
Now, I bet when you talk to the parents and you tell them what's going on, they're like, not my little Johnny. But when they hear it a week later from little Johnny's mouth saying what he's been doing, do you see an impact on those parents when they actually, it translates from you to their child, passing that word, but hey, this is what I've been doing?
A lot of times the kids don't admit to it in front of their parents until they're actually in the room with us, because we make them tell us. And a lot of times we already know, because we'll have done our investigation. We'll talk to other kids at the school, other kids that got arrested with them maybe. So we know about what's going on. We'll look at some of their social media sites and what stuff that they've posted. So we see what's going on, and just from experience, we can kind of tell what they've been doing. Just from law enforcement, you can tell when they're lying. You know the answers to the questions before you ask them. A lot of times we do. But when they admit it in front of their parents, when we've had parents just break down crying because they can't believe that their son or daughter has tried these different things, especially when we talk to them, maybe they got arrested for marijuana, but when we talk to them, what other drugs have you tried, and they start naming heavier narcotics that they've experimented with, and the parents just have no idea, and the parents start to blame themselves a little bit, which isn't what we want. We just want to make sure that they're aware of everything so that they can move forward and correct the behavior. I got to take a break. And when we come back, I want to talk about some of the programs that once that moment hits and you've got that impactful moment with the parents, some of the things that you're doing and the sheriff's department is doing to maybe correct the behavior, educate that behavior. Okay? So when we come back, we'll do that right here on AM 1220 KHTS.